Hi class, this is Dr. Dilmar. I wanted to drop you a quick video solely focused on your written report so that you had confidence going into this assignment. I know that the language written report can sound kind of ominous, and most people moan and groan and say, oh my gosh, there's a written report. But I promise you, this one is not as bad as it seems. So what I thought I would do is jump into the assignment itself and show you a couple of things that will help you and hopefully alleviate some of the stress. The first thing I'd like to do, and you see here on the screen, is show you where this assignment is located and show you that I made an adjustment to the due date. So you'll see here that your assignments for Unit 2 are due on the 5th. But what I did was I actually bumped out the paper until the 6th. So if you needed an extra day, you have Monday to work on it as well. So hopefully that will help you out, especially as you go into the weekend. I really am a big advocate of students being able to balance personal life, work life, and school. And so, for me, the goal is that you engage with the work in a meaningful way. And so if that helps, then you get to that point, then great. So we're talking about written report number 1. I'm going to pull up the instructions and I'll use that to give you a couple of tips. So you'll see here in the instructions, I'll give you a minute to orient to that you're actually going to be submitting an image and then a paper or a one-page report to go along with that image. So you're actually going to just copy and paste that image into your Word document. And then you're going to write a one-page report using these prompts. And you can see that it's bulleted here in step 2 to write. So here's my tips for making an A. First, one-page report means just that. The image itself, it does not count as part of the one page. And when you look at MLA formatting, there's a header at the top, and that doesn't count towards your one page. And so usually, if you didn't have an image, one page reports end up being one page and one paragraph. A 2-page report would then be 2 pages and a paragraph to make up for that header where you lose that kind of landscape there at the top of your first page. But since you have an image that's also going to take up some space, you should have 1 page and 1 paragraph plus your image. So you should have both included in your paper. If not, then you potentially will lose some points for page length. Please don't use AI. It's it's just not necessary is the only way I can tell you that, because these papers are not so academic that you need that help from AI. It's really a lot of questions about you and that natural variation of your language. It's going to be clear if you're writing this or if the computer has written it. You probably would spend more time trying to get the AI generated report and then make it sound like it's your natural language, because these are not academic or research papers. These are personal entries and reflection responses, and so that's the type of language and tone and inflection you would be using. And one page, honestly, isn't that much. It's a few paragraphs. By the time you write 1 page double-spaced and a paragraph, you really can knock that out, I think, quite quickly, especially using these prompts without having to use AI. So just don't put yourself at risk with getting caught for cheating or plagiarism by doing that. There is a place for AI in the writing world, in the academic world. It's just not for these assignments. So that's my tips on that. Now I want to just talk to you about the actual formatting of the paper itself. So page length is a big, really, because you're learning, so you're learning not just how to communicate and digging into the content, it's also about your professionalism and how you can prepare a polished paper. So the page length is important because you're learning that skill of following directions and presenting what's asked for, not just the content, but also you're learning about the polished nature of a formal paper, in this sense, a formal paper being not just like words that you write in a discussion board. So page length impacts your grade very heavily. And then also the formatting impacts your grade very heavily. So yes, it's about the content and following instructions, but it's really more about the formatting and presentation. So things to look out for, and I just pulled up the website that I shared with you before. I mean, you could certainly use our school website for MLA formatting, anything that the library has available. I always say start with your school's resources first, but for me, I'm visual, and so having the sample MLA paper from Purdue OWL is helpful. So what I did was I Googled that. You can see here, just MLA style paper, Purdue OWL, and it lets me download this sample. It takes me directly there. So here at the top left, you should have your name, my name, English, and the date double spaced. You shouldn't have to change your margins in Word. They should be pretty typical margins, but you could want to, check that if you need to. Everything in the entire paper is 12 times Roman font, even the page number. So I'm going to move my little face here out of the way so you can see that. And you can see here at the top right is your last name. See, it's Doe because this is a Jane Doe name. But so if it were me writing, it would say Dilmar space 1. So you're going to put your last name and the page number, and it should show up on every page. And that should also be in Times Roman font. So 12 point Times Roman, everything. So you actually have to double click on the page number to highlight it and then change it to that font. So you've got your last name and page number, you've got your header here, and then you've got a title. So here they have a title. You can make up a title. You could just say written paper number 1. Either way for me is fine. And then you start writing. And this is where it gets easy, right? You're just writing. But you notice that there's the indentation. It's weird, but a lot of people forget to indent for some reason paragraphs. You see paragraph indented. And then at this point, you would really only be going to this one page and one paragraph. This is one page of content, right? So right here where it says, and it is to this that I now turn, that would be about where on the piece of paper you would end. Of course, you go to where you naturally end. I'm not saying you can't write more. I'm just saying that this is the minimum, one page and one paragraph. You can see here again, the last name and page number is there in Times Roman font. And then really after that, you're going to just be going to the reference section. So I'll talk to you about that in a second. But one thing I wanted to note is you notice here, this is all double spaced. But in Word, sometimes they'll put an extra space. It's the way the formatting is already set. So you will notice that when you hit enter, in between like a title like this in your first paragraph, or maybe in between paragraphs where I just highlighted, you'll notice that sometimes there's an extra space put. So how do you prevent that? Well, this isn't a Word document. This is a downloadable version, but I'm going to show you. You would right click like I just did here. And here, and it's not going to do it on this version, it'll say remove space or add space. You could also just Google this, how do you add spaces or remove spaces to Word. But essentially, where you have the two paragraphs change, right click, and you can capture as many words as you want to. It's going to do it regardless. And you're going to remove the spaces. So you should have no extra space. And you can play with it, adding a space and removing a space so you can see clearly the difference. If the two words say remove, then you want to click on that because that means there's an extra space there that needs to be removed. When you right click, if it says add, don't click on it because it means there is no space and you're not adding. And you would do that anywhere you have the title in your first paragraph and anywhere you change from one paragraph to the next because you hit enter to go to the next paragraph, and therefore Word sometimes puts in that extra space. So if anywhere you use headers, subheaders, anything like that, just make sure that awkward extra space is not there. It should just be normal double spacing. So the rest of this you probably won't be using. You won't be using a lot of subtitles or subheaders and titles and stuff like that, notes, appendices. You're not going to really use that for our type of papers. Most of our papers are only 1 to 2 pages. Of course, if you want to, you can. I'm just saying you don't need to. Our papers are not long enough to do that. But what you will use is a works cited. Generally, you're only going to probably have one reference for each paper you write, but you do have to have a works cited. It is required. So just like formatting, you would lose points for that. The page length, you would lose points for that. You would also lose points if you didn't have a reference. So let's make sure that we have that one reference cited correctly. So you can see here, we still have last name and page number. For most of you, this is probably going to be page 3. because your works cited is always on a brand new sheet of paper. You can tell there's no awkward spaces left at the top, and there's no weird extra spaces between works cited and the first reference. And between the two references, if you did have more than one, you could right click here and remove those extra spaces if you need to. Again, you don't need any extra spaces, just normal double spacing, which is what you're looking at. What I will share is that the references here, so you'll notice this first one starts at, you don't tab or enter over, it starts at the line of entry. Only all the following lines are indented. So your first line should not be indented. All the following lines are indented, and there's no weird, awkward extra spaces. It's only the normal double space. So on the first assignment, for example, you would probably have, let's go back up. You would have this section here with the header, last name and page number on each page, a title or something that says paper 1, and then you can put your image there and then start writing, or you can write and then put your image. But you're going to have one page and one paragraph and an image. I don't care if it comes at the beginning or the end, as long as you have that one page and one paragraph, and then you would have a separate page for your works cited with the one reference. I hope this helps you to not lose points on formatting and really to help you engage in practicing how to professionally write and submit papers. My last key piece of advice is do not write directly in the Dropbox, because you can't write a formal paper in the Dropbox. So excuse me, you can use Word or Google Docs. If you use Google Docs, you must give me access. There's a way that you can share the document, and it says anyone with the link can view it. If I can't see it, just as a placeholder, I'll put a 0 in there, but I'm happy to go back and change that once I go back to grade late papers. Just make sure, to save yourself that trouble and stress, that you share access with me to that if you have a Google Doc. And I always tell people use my personal Gmail, because it just makes sharing easier, which is dilmaramy@gmail.com, and I'll put it in this announcement as well, so that if you are using Google Docs, that you can share it with me that way. Of course, Microsoft Word is the preferred method, though. Just don't write in the Dropbox. All right, TGIF, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and text me or email me if you need something. Bye.